Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 154. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and number one bestselling author of Practical Law of Attraction: Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. And I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores today. Today, I am so excited to introduce our very special guest with me, John Gray, Dr. John Gray. John Gray is the author of the most well known trusted relationship book of all time, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. USA Today listed his book as one of the top 10 most influential books of the last quarter century. In hardcover, it was the number one best-selling book of the 90s, and Dr. Gray's books are translated into approximately 45 languages in more than 100 countries and continues to be a bestseller. Dr. Gray has written over 20 books. His most recent book is Beyond Mars and Venus. His Mars Venus book series has forever changed the way men and women view their relationships. Dr. John Gray helps men and women better understand and respect their differences in both personal and professional relationships. His approach combines specific communication techniques with healthy nutritional chemistry for lasting health, happiness, and romance. And he can be found on the website marsvenus.com. And we'll put the links to the rest of his social media on our show notes, including links to his blog and his weekly live Facebook show. And so today, Dr. John Gray is going to be sharing some of his insights on business success, how to improve sales by understanding the way women and men are motivated differently. So, welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast, John.
Victoria, it's a real pleasure to spend this time with you. And I don't often talk about sales. Everybody knows me for relationship, but sales is all about relationships. And I'll talk a bit about that today and expand it. Usually, my audience is when they start beginning to hear the differences between men and women, they go, wow, that's amazing. And that's why I'm misunderstanding my partner and how I can make it better. But let's start with in sales. And again, these same ideas, many of them help us directly in our personal relationships, but that's what sales is it's all about relationship today. It used to be about the best deal, but now you can get the best deal from so many different places. What causes a person to choose, say yes? And that is to say yes to you is going to be trust. And when we understand the biology of men and women, then you have a greater insight in how to build trust. And I don't mean to build trust in a way to trick them or manipulate them, but the techniques I teach only work if it's truly authentic. And it's very powerful. But if it's not authentic, it seems so contrived, so manipulative that anybody will see through it. So you can't use these techniques to trick people, lie to people, deceive people, force people, manipulate people. But they are actually how to build a relationship and an insight, and certainly respecting people, appreciating people, offering them the truth, being sincere. These are like common examples of good sales. Caring is a big one. But now let's break it down and try to maintain a kind of a focus on what's going to be most helpful and useful for building trust. Because when I say trust, I can say yes, but I can also say no. And that's very important. You see, a lot of people guilt you into sales. It leaves a bad aftertaste. They're not going to recommend you to other people because they want to make you feel bad if you don't do it. It's like, look what I've done for you. I'm spending all this time with you. Oh, I'll give you this tea with you. I'll do this. I mean, I've been through sales manipulation. I'll tell you, flattery and sales manipulation just leaves a bad feeling, and you never want to go back to that person. You want to build fans. You want to build wonderful people who care about you and want to work with you. Even to give away a sale will produce future sales, because you truly want to do what's best for that person. Let it be always a win for them and not just ourselves. But having set that ground, which many people talk about, and my specialty is now we're talking about if you're a man and you're selling to a woman, if you're a woman selling to a woman, if you're a woman, what do you need to say yes? And what does a man need to say yes? So let's
Oh
look at
yeah, this could be really good information. And I started off. I got to know you by reading the very first book that you were famous for, is "Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus," and it really helped our relationship. I mean, my husband and I read it together after I read it on my own before getting into a relationship. And so I think that book and all of your books are very instrumental for relationships. But referring to another author, Dr. Stephen Covey, who very specifically talks about seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think this is really what we're talking about here, is really understanding the nature of how men and women think, so that you can communicate with them in a way that is ultimately creating an authentic, genuine relationship.
Yeah, I know Stephen. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And actually, that phrase comes from the St. Francis prayer, which is seek to understand rather than to be understood. And I'm going to apply that to gender relationships as well, not just to sales. But the irony here is that women have a much greater need to be heard and understood than men do. I want to say that again. Women,
Amen.
women have, yes, yes. And if men understood that, then they would take more time to listen to women. Men will tend to interrupt and say, okay, what's the point? Or they'll finish your sentence. It's kind of like, I know where you're going, so let's get there right away. Not understanding that there's a need inside of women, which is to be seen, heard, understood, to feel empathy, to feel respect. These are like primary needs that women have, and men have those needs too. But let's call it 10 times more for women. Literally, let's imagine 10 times more. It kind of wakes a man up, because men are often impressed in sales. I will come back to sales now for a moment. If I have a man selling to me, I want to know what he's going to do for me in terms of what he's done before. Not that a woman doesn't. Keep in mind, everything can be back and forth. But I want to see his degrees. I want to see what car he drives. I want to see, what his success has been. I want to see who he knows. All of those things are saying, look how competent I am. Look what a can-do person I am. I'm so can-do that I could actually, based upon my life experience, make sure you get the right thing. Now, I know women, that sounds very attractive and so forth, but let me wait to get to what you need most. But that's what men need. And sometimes when a man builds himself up, he will appear so arrogant that it will turn women off. There's a subtlety to that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, he just thinks about himself. He doesn't think about me. And how does a woman get to feel he thinks about me? And why is that so important? Well, certainly if you're going to hire someone, you're going to trust them. You need to feel they think about you. They personally care about you, that they are sincere. And the way a woman can feel that you are sincere is to demonstrate ways that say, I care about you, that you're important to me, that you can rely on me. And just saying, okay, I care about you, you can depend on me, you can rely on me, that's not going to win her over. Ironically, it can win a man over very quickly without going so deeply in it. It's kind of like, oh, you can do that and I don't have to do it myself. That's amazing, because men are always motivated towards efficiency, meaning do less, do less, do less. If I can get somebody else to do it, I'm happy for them to do it. That's a gene inside of men that we call efficiency, women call lazy. Okay. My husband, he waits to the last minute to do stuff. And what women don't realize is if you want him to do something and he doesn't do it, and then you do it for him, or you do it for yourself without him, you're training him to actually do less. So this see, men always, it's kind of like, how do I get from point A to point B in the most efficient way possible? That's why it's like, get to the point, achieve the goal. How fast can we get there? So with a man, I want to emphasize my experience, so I'll make it easier for him to achieve this goal. If I've got a guy who's accomplished, I'll say, okay, handle. I got other things to do that I'm really good at.
Right.
Uh, and that's a big key thing. Now, certainly a woman could feel, look, I want somebody who knows how to do this, so I don't have to do it. She could feel that way. But what's going to allow her to trust you is not just that you can do the job and that you have the right answers and you've done the research and you're quite capable. And for a man, that's all good, but it's kind of like, okay, I don't have to do it. For a woman, she needs to trust that you care about her. So if we look at stress levels inside of men and women, we see that men's stress level goes down, and that means he's ready for a yes, right? When you're stressed, relax, you go, okay, I like
Mm-hmm.
this. This sounds good to me. When we go into danger, when we're in fight or flight, we have a bias in our brain towards looking at everything wrong. Okay, that's a
Mm.
very universal thing for both men and women. If
That's
we,
both men and women.
yeah, it's both men and women. So stress causes us, well, if you're in danger, you want to look for everything that can go wrong, right? That's what your brain
Absolutely.
does. And so that's a bias towards negativity, which is often going to cause mistrust, doubt. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. How to get them out of I don't know is you basically build trust and make them feel comfortable and easy. And that's the whole concept of relationship is that both people feel that they're free to be themselves in your presence. They're safe. Nobody's trying to manipulate them or trick them or cheat them. So biologically, men and women are different. This is where, there's a lot of similarities, and everything I said could be one side or the other to some extent. But biologically, there's a grand canyon of differences. When women are under stress, their testosterone levels will go up and their estrogen levels will go down. Now, when men are under stress, their estrogen levels will go up and their testosterone will go down. That's the opposite.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, this is
wow.
this is
Okay. Interesting.
biology. You can
Oh,
measure. Another way of looking at the same thing is, and that's what, by the way, people can know that this book here is a book that's never been even conceived of before on this planet, which is my understanding, which took many, many years to balance out, figure out, and so forth, based upon other research and my own experience. The the research shows that when a man experiences a stress response, his testosterone is low. It bears repeating, and his estrogen side. Now, why is that significant? Because women, it's just the opposite. Now, the next thing is estrogen. We call it the female hormone because because women have 10 times more than men. And then in order to ovulate and get pregnant, they need 20 times more than men at that time of ovulation. So estrogen is like very important hormone in a woman's body. Nature rewards women with estrogen by making you feel good when your estrogen levels are in balance with your other hormones. But estrogen has to be much higher than a man's, we'll put it that way. 10 times higher just to feel relaxed and open. Making a decision, if it can go a little higher, she'll be into a yes set, meaning she's, oh, okay, I'm open, I'm ready to go with this. Now, a man, when he has high estrogen, he's going to have a fear response. He needs testosterone. So you get a man who's experienced anxiety or depression, his testosterone would be very low. And for women, when their anxiety or depression is present, negative states, their estrogen levels are low, particularly if her mind is worrying. Okay, she's, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this?
mm-hmm.
That's a sign that her male hormones are being produced, not her female hormones. So this is like, so now we got a gauge here. So we're not just theorizing, we're looking at some real realities that are tested over and over in terms of our hormonal differences. And, it's only been the last, 15 years where maybe actually they've been giving women hormones for a long time, but they started doing all this research on how powerful hormone balances have to do with your moods, your motivations, your desires, your pleasure, all that stuff is uh, balances with the mind. If the mind is happy, your hormones are in balance. If the hormones go out of balance, your mind can't be happy. See, so that
Right.
it goes back and forth. It's a two-way street.
Now, dare I ask, are there some women and some men that like maybe they have a higher level of the opposite hormone just innately, like, or, you know, like where they, you know, some men feel, you know, a little bit more, you know, they're like on
Of
the
course,
feminine
yes.
side,
Yeah,
and
there are,
women are a little bit more on the masculine side.
well,
So
let me say that.
yeah, I just wonder if people are wondering about that as
Well,
well.
yeah, most women these days who read Men Are From Mars, I won't say most, but many women, particularly if they're single women and they read Men Are From Mars, they often think they're from Mars. Okay, because
Yes.
what produces testosterone is uh, being independent. Okay, so I'm independent, and the more
Hmm.
independent you are in your life, the more testosterone you have. So an example of testosterone is you try to tell a little boy how to tie his shoes. He says, "No, I can do it myself." You know, give a man any advice. I don't need to hear that. I don't want to hear that. You know, it's just like, don't tell me what to do. Particularly, I'm from Texas, so it's like, we're Texas. Don't tell us what to do.
Right. Yeah, because I've grown up my whole life, you know, I have that independent air. You know, I'm
Yes,
kind of
yes,
like, I can do it myself. Yeah, obviously, I'm a successful entrepreneur. You know, so the roles have been a little bit reversed. So sometimes when I'm reading those, you know, those books, I realize that, like, well, this part applies to me a little bit more. But, you know, so it stands to reason, maybe I have a little bit more testosterone, maybe my husband has, you know, a little bit more, uh, you know, we flip-flop, you know?
exactly. And so what I have, when it comes to marriage, when role reversal happens in marriage to a various degrees, but when role, we'll call it more, when role reversal happens, passion goes away, sex goes down. That's just the reality of it. And
Ooh, that's a
unless
good
there's,
thing to talk about. We'll have to maybe do that on another episode because, yeah, that's a very interesting
it's
topic,
it's
very relevant.
it's polarity. You have to realize that when you meet a guy and you're dating, he's not having a relationship with anybody. He's very, very independent. He has his cave, he has his own space, and he's visiting you. Well, that's when it's going to be the most passion. There's a polarity. He's on his male side, and you're like, if you're a woman, you're excited. This guy's calling back. He's talking to you. He's interested. You're feeling like, oh, maybe I can get some intimacy now, some love and attention and affection and romance. Maybe it's going to happen. So she's more on her female side. So we all have both sides, and that's what you're getting at. We all have both sides. I have an independent side. You have an independent side. I have a dependent side. And there is some truth to, everybody's got their unique balance. And in terms of balance is that you can actually look at body types. And actually, I'm not allowed to talk about that until another book comes out. But basically, it's my daughter, Lauren. She teaches classes at marsvenus.com for women only. And she's writing a course with me there, and that's part of the course. So she doesn't want me to tell everything in the course right away. So anyway, but body types could also reveal what people's healthy balance is. But what you can know is that any man, any man is going to need at least to be in his body 10 to 30 times more testosterone than a woman. And that's where the variation is. The man who only needs 10 times more testosterone, he's going to have more estrogen, and that's his comfort zone. But he's basically still going to need to have 10 times more testosterone than a woman. And when he's out of balance, if he's stressed, his estrogen levels are going to be too high for him. So anytime any man or woman is stressed, for a man, when he's stressed, his estrogen levels for him are going to be too high. His testosterone is going to be too low. Do you see where I'm getting at?
I do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, we all are unique individuals, but biologically, there's a huge gulf between men and women. So, a guy who's like more on his female side, for example, he's not going to know he needs as much cave time. All
Hmm.
he's going to know is he's feeling kind of grumpy and irritable with his
Mm.
partner and
Hmm.
argumentative because he has more estrogen. He's more comfortable. That's his balanced place, connection. And he doesn't realize that when he is irritable, the solution is not more connection. It's actually, he needs to back off. He needs to
Right.
take his me time. We call it, I call it cave time in Mars Venus.
We
Uh,
call it Stevie time.
what do you call it?
Stevie time.
TV
Like,
time.
Yeah, once a week or so, he just needs to go and, have a Stevie night and, and spend time, which I'm perfectly fine with because I don't take as much time to myself. And I could take all, I could use a lot. I work from home. I don't have anybody around, and I just never get bored of that. Like I never get sick of having all that time to myself. So, when he needs the Stevie time, it's like kind of bonus time for me.
It's also there's women who complain about their husbands being they often call it emotionally unavailable or just detached, wanting to have his own time, more independent. They often don't take time for themselves. So
Hmm.
you take time for yourselves. So you understand all human beings need to take time for themselves. So if your partner's taking time for themselves, you don't take it personally. See, that's the whole
Exactly.
dynamic. Now, out of your wish and our intention was sales. So once we understand that uh, people who are women, we'll start with women. If I want to build trust with a woman, and I'm a man, I'm going to ask more questions than I think is necessary. Okay, that's the bottom line here. It helped me understand that better is a very key phrase. Women might naturally do this, but if they're on their male side, they might not naturally do this, not realizing that they could be turning other women off by being too masculine and saying, "Okay, what's the point? I can do this for you. I'm a handler." And it could just be like, she's just full of herself, just like a man's just full of himself, which could be impressive to men, but not necessarily building trust to women. So the way you build trust to women is you don't put yourself so high up, but you ask more questions to connect with her and to understand what her experiences have been and what she's wanting and what she's wishing, and never trying to push her. You don't try to push her. You basically ask more questions. So here's 3 questions to ask, whether you're a man or woman asking them. This is what you would do with a woman, which will help me understand that better. And ask, tell me more. And what else? And just pause. So you want to take more time to get her to talk. Now I know in a lot of these things that are selling you stuff online, they don't make it short and crisp. They go on and on and on and on. I don't know. Have you seen those recordings? You can't even fast forward them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
they
sales
just,
video sales
the sales
letters.
videos, they go on and on and on because they're doing that based on the principle that people don't like to waste time. Nobody likes that's like a lot of people are hoarders. They don't want to throw it away because they don't want to feel like they wasted something or they didn't
Right.
keep
I
it.
spent all this time watching this video, so I might as well go
That's right.
ahead.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. So you've invested your time into this thing, and if you don't buy it, then you wasted your time. So there's a
It's
so
so true.
so that
The secret is you could actually watch those on your mobile device and you can scrub through it.
that's good to know. So with with um, so with the woman, the more she talks, basically, the more she's going to bond with you. That's what you got to
Mhm.
know. Her feeling, it produces a hormone called oxytocin when you listen to a woman and you don't try to change her mind. You have a sort of a very not attached perspective on what she does, but show interest. See, non-attachment could be construed as not caring. Well, I
Mhm.
don't care what you. No, you care about her, but you don't care about making sure she signs with you. It's not like it's this conversation, this sales is not about what I need, what I want. It's about you. And that's why people who in sales, it's called a yes set. They'll be like a good sale, they'll get another sale and they'll get another sale because they're feeling confident. See, that's the law of attraction is that you're experiencing that success, then you'll attract more of that success. And that's called a yes set, is that you just, yes, 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 it's possible, because you're feeling confident and assured that good thing is going to happen. And then bang, and just get shifting to another teaching is once you start believing in yourself that you're going to get another sale, and everything is good, then suddenly your own inner saboteur comes up, which is, our own doubt that we're good enough, that feeling of unworthiness and inadequacy, or do I really deserve this kind of a thing? And it just sort of creeps up. And then now the universe reflects that back to you. So
Right.
that's where that's where our self-help work and so forth, learning to open our hearts more and more. But in actual sales, basically, that feeling of this is not about me, I'm abundant. Okay, it is about I'm serving you. So it's showing caring. This is how we now through conversation and asking questions, not trying to close the deal, uh, get to the point, move on. But you're going to say, help me understand that better. Tell me more. What else? Let's explore this. Would you like this? Now, you always give her options. Men, you can tell them what to do. Once a man has decided that you're an expert, whatever, says, what do you think I ought to do? You tell him, well, I think you got to do this and this and this. A woman says, what do you think I ought to do? You want to give her some options. You want to have her feel that she's choosing. Choice is a very key thing when you have estrogen production. Is that
So you want to ask the woman very open-ended questions to tell, just to really get her talking, to get her exploring, to get her, comfortable, to get her feeling, that not the estrogen, but the
that's
oxytocin
no,
is
that, but that's
rising.
also estrogen producing. Once the oxytocin starts going up where she feels safe, nobody's pushing her into a box. She feels safe. Then what happens is her estrogen levels can rise. You see, oxytocin says I'm safe. If you don't have a feeling of I'm safe in the body, then you feel, oh, I have to be careful. I have to protect myself. I have to protect myself is your male side. The male side of you is your protector. You don't want sales should diffuse the protector. I'm going to be your protector, providing the right support you need. So the safety to sort of express herself with open-ended questions. What would be some open-ended questions?
I would say, tell me just a little bit about yourself. Would be people like to talk about themselves. Tell me. I mean, I guess it just depends on the particular item that you're selling. So, like
Exactly.
in my case, it's going to be, talking about a seminar, or course, or a book, or something like that. So I kind of want to know where the appropriate place to put somebody is. So, what's going on in your life right now?
That's
What?
another one. It
Yeah.
depends how personal you want to get with someone, but the
Mm-hmm.
open-ended question is the opposite of what you don't want to do is have you taken a seminar before? That's a yes or no. So I'm helping to explain to you what an open-ended question is. That's all. Is have you taken a seminar before? Are you wanting to be more successful? Yes. See, yes and no's don't allow opening. So tell me your most positive what experiences have you had in other seminars? And whatever it is, you ask, tell me more about that. Help me with that. And what were you wanting in those seminars that you got if they're happy with it, or, oh, let me understand more clearly what it is you're looking for. What experiences did you have with that company, or what were your favorite moments in that, or what you're selling a car, what are the features that you just dream of? Let's see if we can find something for you that way. And then they might talk a little bit and you might say, well, hey, how does this car sound to you? I want you to sit in this car, see what you feel. And she goes, oh, this is nice. And then she might start seeing things that are wrong with it. Don't try to convince her that those things are right. But
I'm laughing because I can relate.
to men telling you what's right about what they're trying to sell you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I I feel like nobody likes that, but I probably feel that way because I'm a woman.
Well, the whole thing is men, yeah, get out of, the key phrase in some of the chapters of Men Are From Mars is women will describe men don't listen. And of course, men
Mhm.
do listen, but not the way women want. Men hear a few sentences and they say, oh, what you really want is this. What you really want is that. And uh, you don't want to do that. You want to build the trust. And then if she says, well, what do you think I should do? Well, I think, because you've had this experience in this one, I think this will really work for you. And then come through with confidence. Now,
Mhm.
this is a key thing. I remember one time I was learning about all this and I was in Canada. I live in California, but my wife and I were in Canada and we were in some department store. My wife was looking at dresses, right? And while we were there, there was this woman who was like from the country, being in a department store was kind of like futuristic for her. So you could see she was very insecure and she was dressed in a very not modern way. and her husband was also dressed in a not modern way. It was kind of like we're kind of like entering into the modern world, and she's trying on dresses. I'm saying all that to explain this level of insecurity she had with trying on these dresses. And she would keep trying on a dress, and she would say, "What do you think?" And her husband would say, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's not an expert on fashion. He doesn't, I don't know. And she must have tried on 6 or 7. And, uh, they couldn't make up their mind. And I remember I just realized they needed a little help with this. So
Mm-hmm.
I was watching, observing as my wife was also putting on dresses. And I looked at her, I said, "That dress is really flattering on you." And they both went, "Thank you."
Yes, that's exactly what I needed to hear.
and, and I will promise you that every time she wears that dress, she will hear me saying to her, "That dress is so flattering on you." So people
Mm-hmm.
do need that confirmation, that validation. They need that from us, and that's where you just don't do it too soon, but you need that. I've actually bought suits before, and I put it on. I still remember the woman salesman saying, "Now this really looks good on you."
Right, right.
Because whenever somebody is, I don't know, do I know? If you've opened them up, then they really need someone to say, almost like a parent to go, "You're in the right place at the right time. And that looks great on you." So that's a gift you give to them. It's not a manipulation. It's a gift you give to them, because, some of us kind of go and trying to create space for people to make their own decisions. We kind of go, "Yeah, it's up to you. It's up to you." And then the other extreme of that is the manipulative. "Well, this is the only one you should get. I mean, really, you should get this. If you don't get this, you're really going to miss out. And we only have this for a certain amount of time." And you push people into it. You can sell that way, but you won't have a lasting customer. And people are outgrowing manipulation. They can smell it. They don't want to deal with it. I just walk out of the room when I get a manipulative person. I didn't want to talk to them. Uh,
Yeah,
and
you can tell when somebody's manipulating. And I mean, I'm the kind of person when I walk into a store, I kind of like to carouse on my own and just, get a feel. It's like I don't want to be like inundated with lots of questions from the salesperson
right,
right
right.
away.
And that's most people. I want to say that that's exactly me as well. But I want someone to be attentive to me in case I had a question. So you can always go, "If there's any help you need, I'm available to you." And you create that space for them. But I think it's also good to let them know that you're available, and you back off from that. And people really appreciate that. It's that sense of, "I'm not attached. I'm not dependent on you buying my product." Now, let's apply that to relationships. This is sort of my big theme in all my relationship books, is that we're not responsible for our partner's happiness. We're only responsible to make them happier. See, the
Mm,
foundation
I
of a
like
good
that.
relationship, the same thing as a good salesperson, is I'm not dependent on you for my happiness and well-being. I'm together. I've got a life. I'm fulfilled. I'm good. And I love what I do, and I love you. So, or I care about you in the case of sales. And, whether you buy this or not, it doesn't make my life uh, any different. I'm happy to have helped you. And so in a relationship, you see, I've been doing this 50 years. I don't bring this out to people right away, but it's a context, which is every time someone's unhappy in a relationship, they're demanding their partner to change before they can be happy. That's called a demand, as opposed to a preference. I like this to be the way, I like this to be, but there's no demand. When you ask for the bottom line in sales, so often you say, "Well, would you like to purchase this today?" If it's in a non-demanding way and there's been conversation, it creates an opportunity for them to say yes, because sometimes they need that little nudge in sales, which is, and would today work, to purchase this? I mean, this is probably a good time. Would today work, or would you like to do this today? And don't
Hmm.
say, "or another time." Don't say, "Why don't you think about it?" They already know they can think about it. Just create what in sales is called the pregnant pause. And it seems a little manipulative, but it's not. You're giving them a chance to find out what's true for them.
Yeah,
And
because you
so
could
many
talk
people,
yourself out of the sale, by saying too much.
and
And,
yes,
when you were
that's
saying
that.
that, when you were saying that, I was also thinking law of detachment. I'm thinking whenever we put something out there, whether it's we're asking for the sale or we're asking for a request from our partner, we got to be detached from the outcome, because people can feel that expectation, that attachment, and when they feel that you're attached to that, they're gonna kind of be, I think it's gonna put them into a place of resistance.
Oh, I completely agree with you. It's the foundation of everything I teach in relationships. Is I like saying calling it the law of detachment. That's quite wonderful. And it's basically it's preference as opposed to demand. My happiness is not dependent on you, but in a personal relationship, this would make me happier. I'll give you an example of that. When Bonnie would have this consistent complaint of me where I would leave off, turn out, I would walk through a room. Our house is quite large, and I'd walk through a room if I was going to the other end of the house, and I would just walk through. I turn on the light, and then I turn on the next light, and I turn on. It's a series of lights to walk through my house.
Yep.
Okay. And I would just leave them on, and she was always like, I have to turn out the light. I have to turn out the light. She said, John, you're leaving the lights on all the time. I said, oh, okay. I'll try to remember. But I never remembered. I just didn't remember. And now for women, if you're the wife in that case, suddenly me not turning out the lights 5 years later becomes a very big deal. In the beginning, it's not a big deal, but it's no longer, I didn't turn out the light. It's if you don't turn out the light, that means you don't love me.
Oh my goodness. I've had my own version of that with him leaving. He likes to have this peanut butter and Hershey's, kisses together at night, and so occasionally he doesn't do it anymore because I've lost my mind multiple times and he doesn't want that anymore. But
What is the problem with that?
the
Is it
the the
breath?
problem is leaving the peanut butter spoon in his milk glass overnight soaking, and I wake up in the morning, I wake up like, 5 AM, and he doesn't get up till 7, so I'm down there making my coffee, and the freaking, "Oh my god, you left the freaking peanut butter spoon."
That's
You
right.
know,
And
it's
it's the same.
maddening.
And it's also the same thing with toilet seat, the whole thing where you left the toilet seat up and in the middle of the night, and you fall in it. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's a little thing in the beginning, but suddenly it becomes, you don't love me. And that creates this strong reaction. And
Mhm.
so I want to tell you how my wife cured me of this, of the little things. And I really, really made big changes after years of not changing. Is she caught me doing it right. And
Mm.
so that's the whole thing here. But it's making the point in sales as well, which is, it's a wonderful example of non-demanding bottom line. Okay, close, non-demanding close.
Mhm.
Um, she she figured all this stuff out. So much of my books is my wife figuring stuff out, how to change me.
I love that. I love that. It's
But
funny. It's fun to hear you say your wife's name, Bonnie, because I've listened to some of your audio recordings and it just was a little nostalgic. It's like, oh yeah, I remember him talking about Bonnie in some of these books. So it's just kind of
she's just
nostalgic.
so what Bonnie did is, so she one day, and so many times she would just like, you forgot again, it became this big deal. And I'm kind of like, is my wife a little crazy? It's only the light bulb. We would have arguments as well, what's expensive. And I said, honey, I make a lot of money. I can afford it. She says, yes, but it's it's not environmentally good to waste electricity. And I said, we only use green energy. So ours is solar energy, but we have to set an example. And I go, to who? Yeah. But anyway, bless her heart. So so one day she decides to catch me doing it right. And she popped her head into the kitchen, and where I was probably making peanut butter sandwich with a spoon. I'm just kidding. Uh, Doing something in the kitchen. And she popped her head and she smiled at me and she said, John, I've noticed, well, let me try to get the right words. It was something along the lines of, I've noticed many times now you turn out the light. And I really love that and appreciate it.
Mm,
And
yeah.
sometimes you still forget. And if you try to remember, I enjoy it more, something like that. And then she just popped out of the room. She didn't look at me for some kind of response. You see, often when women are a little dissatisfied with us, they point a thing out and they look at you like you're supposed to say, "I'm sorry."
Right.
You know, to me, it's hard to say you're sorry when somebody's looking at you like you should feel sorry, one. And two, when it's over something little, even though we can understand that it's no longer something little because she feels powerless to get what she wants from me about something little. In a woman's mind, that means if I needed something big, you really wouldn't be there. In a man's mind, it's something little, no big deal. If it's something big, I'm like right there. So ironically, men are insulted when women get upset about little things. Whereas women think, well, I'm not complaining about big stuff. It's only little stuff. So what's the big deal? Do you see how we look at things a little differently?
Absolutely. No, it's so different. So how can we apply that to, like, what would motivate somebody? What's a way that we could apply that in sales, to a person who's like, how can we
Well,
reward
what
them
you've
with
done
that
is
same
you've
kind of.
established first you build trust. And now here's one other thing we're talking about building trust. I like to list things. What you want to do to build trust in someone, particularly women, but also men, we'll get to that, is to demonstrate caring, consideration, thoughtfulness. You think about what they say before you speak. Okay, caring, think about what they say, consideration, understanding. You need to understand that person better than and by them talking it out, they will understand themselves better. You see, life is about change and growth. You want them to buy something new, they got to change. And what's interesting, and it's kind of like the whole concept of talk therapy, is when you talk things out, you understand yourself better. Can you relate to that as a woman?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, so many times, because, I've referred to your book when I've had this conversation sometimes, where it's like, I just want to, bring up the problem a- and have a two-way conversation about it, but I just want to figure it out, And so I feel like it just opens up more of a space of creativity and it just makes me more expansive just to be able to have another person to bounce ideas off of. I don't
Yes,
need you to fix it, I just
that's
need to
right.
talk about it.
You just need to talk about it, don't need to fix it. That's where, again, men have a tendency to rush in too quickly with a
Mhm.
fix it, rather than giving her more awareness of herself by asking questions and not trying to solve the problem, but letting her become more aware of herself. She is now changed. And it's that transformation of greater self awareness of what I like, what I don't like, what I feel, what I don't feel. That's a space that if you're a man, particularly, you have a huge advantage, actually, because women on a certain level kind of have a shield up saying men really don't understand this part of me. Particularly, she's been in relationships with men. It's kind of like, uh, this is just a place where men don't get it. And if you're like a man who does get it and you show interest and you show understanding and you're not pushy, you're not trying to fix her, what will happen is there's a part of it that goes, I'm experiencing a level of freedom and safety to be myself. And that takes away fear. And then what happens is she's now open to a yes set and a yes set. So would you like, there's another thing, good thing in sales, not just gender related, but it's, so this works for you. And she says, yeah. And this is good for you as well. Yeah. And is this within your price range? I think it is. And she goes, yeah. I says, all right, well, maybe would today be a good day for, let's go ahead and make the deal. A soft way of making your close statement, which is, shall we sign the papers today, or should I come by on Thursday and we can finalize this? Always give a point of consideration, as opposed to saying, and if you need to think about it, you can always call me. That's how you start out, with that openness. But now you had a conversation, and you're not pushing it. You just make the request. That's called the pregnant pause. Have you taught the pregnant pause?
I haven't taught it, but I know what you're talking about, but
Okay, so
please
it's very,
explain it.
very, so here's the pregnant pause. I didn't come up with that idea, but it's a very important idea in sales, is when you finally build rapport, that's the whole idea we're talking about, is trust. Then you create a close, is like, Well, shall we finalize this now? And then stop. And it sounds like this is working for you. This is working for you. Shall we finalize this now? Shall we finish the deal? Do you have a credit card? Would you like to use a credit card or a check? Just something very specific in a non-pushy way, but just, hey, just assume they're wanting to do it. If they're wanting to do it, they can say yes. If they don't, they can say no, I need to think about it. Let them say, I need to think about it. And that's okay. Some people need more time to think about it. Some people are ready to go. And you don't give them the room to feel the pregnant pause. The pregnant pause is a resistance that people have to saying yes.
Okay.
It's a natural resistance to say, I want to do this, because the mind's always like, well, I can't afford this, or can I do this, or is this the right thing for me? You can be getting them into the yes set with all of this understanding, and this is work for you, and this works for you. Well, I can understand that now. And a pause, and then, well, would this be, do you want to use credit card or not? It's the assumptive clause is, if you're coming by, you say, if you're doing sales on the phone, you go, well, would if I came by on Tuesday, would that work, or Thursday? Would you like to use a credit card or a check? Would you like our home delivery with this? And now I can fill out the papers right now. And you sort of gently move them towards the close, because people are still hesitant to say yes. And so you're giving them a chance. With the pregnant pause is you make your close, and then you just stop. And there's usually a feeling of discomfort, a resistance. Am I really going to do this? Is this really the right thing? Is this the right person for me to work with? Do I feel it's good? That's a natural phenomena for people to make decisions who are indecisive. They need to experience that. You're giving them the opportunity to make the commitment, as opposed to letting fear control them. And that little space of silence where it says, in making an agreement, whoever speaks first loses. That's the way they say it.
So you ask for the sale, and you give them that pregnant pause. You let them be the first person to break the silence.
Break the silence. They need to break the silence, and do not use the phrase, well, probably maybe, and if you need time to think about it, or maybe you want to think about it, or maybe you have to check out some other places, I could recommend that. And you don't create the out, let them take the out, but have a safety where they can take the out,
Or like what a lot of people might do, they'll, the salesperson will feel uncomfortable, and they'll start coming up with all kinds of answers to things they're assuming they're experiencing, like, well, we do offer a payment plan, and you don't want to introduce any
you
of
don't want
those
to do that. Let them
ideas.
ask questions. Do you have a payment plan? But you brought up something a minute ago, and because I wanted to finish on the pregnant pause. Another thing is, you had me at the kiss. It was like, there's a certain place where you need to go to the pregnant pause and not talk more, because talking too much can talk somebody out of it. So there's a balance place where some people, they push too much, they give too much information. They need to create space, and you create space always. Well, do you have any other questions? And let there be a space. Do you like this idea about putting, I don't know what we're selling here, but if I'm selling a car, I just bought a new car. So is this the best color for you, this green, or this is blue one? What feels best to you? And I remember the woman salesman, I kept saying, just for fun, I'm going to tell you this story, because we've become so gender averse these days. So there was a green car, and then there was a blue car, and they're both beautiful, beautiful cars. And I said, the green car to me feels more masculine, and the blue car with the white interior feels more feminine. I think I'm going to go with the green car. And I said to her, what do you think? And she says, well, the green car certainly is sporty, and the blue car certainly is luxurious. I went through this 3 times with her, and she kept saying it, because she's probably not allowed to speak gender,
Oh, yeah.
Which is, actually I picked my green car anyway, but she could have, if I was saying, yeah, the green car is more sporty, or if I said it's more masculine, That's a good thing to say. Yeah, it is, particularly to a man. And if a woman would say, well, the blue one seems a little bit more uh, feminine. It's luxurious and feminine, and this is what you deserve.
Yeah,
Certainly.
sales isn't the place to make that point,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
if
So,
you want to sell the car, agree with the reasons why your buyer is potentially
yeah.
interested in it.
And then always remember the customer is always right. And now, just to finish off today with our looking at gender, when a man is buying something expensive, he's usually on his female side. So you have to embrace that part. But you also have to bring in there the aspects of, look what I can do, look what I've done, I can handle this for you, make it easier for him in his life. He's always going to be thinking, okay, am I making the right decision? Men always want to be right, and women want to feel that someone cares about them. That's their primary thing, and that they're safe. So those are taking that awareness. We're just expanding people's gender understanding, is that men feel empowered when they feel appreciated. And the way you show a man he's appreciated, that raises testosterone. When he says things, that makes sense. You say that to him, that makes
That
sense.
makes sense.
And nod your head. And another one is, well, that's a good idea. And another one is, well, I hadn't seen it that way. That's very interesting. And another one is, you're so right. See, these are perks that he may not be getting enough of from his wife.
Yeah. Would you say the appreciation is also maybe like I feel those words are like a sense of empowerment. Like they want it. Do they need to feel empowered?
Men need more testosterone, and they make decisions with greater confidence when they have testosterone as well. So you supported his female side. He needs to be heard a bit more, but then you want to support his testosterone to make that decision, which is appreciation raises testosterone. It raises testosterone in women, and it's important for women to feel appreciated, but more important to show that you care, you're not hostile, you're not controlling. And for a man, it's more important to acknowledge he makes sense, good idea, you're right, you're selling to this man, and you're smiling, and everything is, you're happy to be in his presence. This is
That
your
makes
power as
sense.
women. Yeah,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
it's a good idea.
I'm
So
nodding.
I have to run now, so I want to thank you so much for a wonderful interview.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show. And you have a wonderful gift that you're going to be offering our audience. I just want to give you an opportunity to share about that. It's about how to get everything you want in relationships for men, women, couples, singles. And they can get that gift today by going over to marsvenus.com/gift of all things.
That's
You make it
correct.
really easy, and that's a course that's just gonna help expand the information that we've been talking about already. But really give people a deeper appreciation for how to communicate with each other. Ultimately, is really what it all comes down to. This whole thing comes down to understanding communication, right?
The power of relationship through communication. Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on our show, and look forward to encountering, more of your books and more of your courses and more of your teachings. And it's just been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. You have a lovely day.
Thank you. You do the same.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.